Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. This is going to be interesting because number one, she's got a lot of music. It's really good. She's got a lot of important friends, but she's probably done more. Her path to today is far different than anybody else I've ever talked to. And I think that's the most interesting thing. I think a lot of people want to know, what else do jazz artists do? And trust me, got a history, but it's a good history. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Althea Rene. Althea, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. This has been a long journey to get to you because several people that I've interviewed in the past have all mentioned your name and you should get a hold of her because she's done this, she's done that, blah, 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 blah. So finally, here we are. We have a common thing, but we can't talk about that because that's a little different. So my first question is, you're a flute player. When did you pick up the flute or decide to play the flute?
Well, I come from a musical family, and so there were always lots of musical instruments in our home, and I'm the youngest of four.
Mm,
So I decided, my older sister, she played flute, but she wasn't really interested that much.
hmm
And so after kind of playing around with a few different instruments, I asked her, could I play the flute? And it was the one thing she said, I don't care. And when I picked it up, that was it, man, for me. I mean, I just practiced constantly, and I was playing by ear.
Oh,
And then my parents, they saw that I was really, really interested. And so probably around the age of 8 or so, my mom started taking money from the grocery money and paying for me to get private lessons. And it took off from there.
so I've talked to a couple of a few players, and they said in the beginning stages, they didn't understand that half the air goes in the flute and half the air goes out. So they were getting lightheaded while playing. Did you
Yeah.
fall into that trap?
Yeah, but that's really early. I mean, that's, because when you first are learning how to blow the flute, it comes from kind of almost hyperventilating
hmm
because you're expending way more air than is needed. And so if you keep doing that, yeah, you're going to make yourself lightheaded. But I think once you start to get control of how much wind it actually takes to sustain a note, then that goes away.
hmm
Yeah.
So despite all of that, you still persevered and have this fabulous career that you have now?
Yeah, but it definitely hasn't been easy, and it's definitely, I feel like being the trailblazer, if you will, because there was a long gap between Bobby Humphrey and me. And so by the time I got old enough to really want to play flute as a featured jazz instrument, I was told that flute wasn't a smooth jazz instrument,
hmm
that basically they wouldn't play flute on the radio at all. So I was a lot of my early, recordings, they just wouldn't play it. And so there was a long gap between me starting my career and actually to what you hear now, where you hear flute on the radio all the time. And so yeah, being the trailblazer is kind of it has it's great because you were the first one to pave the way in a sense.
Hmm.
Bobby Humphrey was actually the first female
Yeah.
that I know of
Hmm.
that opened the door for women in general, because you really, and there's always been women in jazz, but you just weren't hearing about them in contemporary music,
Y-
in that way.
y- y-
So she actually did, open the door, but then it's like it closed
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
behind her, it closed. And so, there was just a long period where nobody wanted to book a flute on a show, nobody wanted to play a flute on the radio. So, I'm just doing this kind of blind and just having faith. And so, a lot of self promotion
Hmm.
and perseverance.
It's funny. That answer is the reason why I don't follow the questions on the list, because that question is further down. But you mentioned Bobby Humphrey. Somewhere in this mass of wax, I still have vinyl here. I still have Satin Doll.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at that and I looked for that, and now I'm not going to remember the song. But she was, because I was doing jazz radio at the time. She
Hmm.
was huge and famous, and
Yes.
it was, and then you're like, where are the rest of them? And then as we begin this program, there's you, there's Reagan Whiteside, there's Kim Scott, and especially right now, you all have like top 10 singles out over the last 3, 4 months. So it's
Hmm.
a resurgence, but it's more like we've kicked the door down and we're here, which brings me to this point. You said when you got started, you created this book. Tell me about the book,
Becoming Chocolate
Becoming
Barbie.
Chocolate Barbie. Yes.
Because it wasn't just being a woman, playing a flute. It was being a female being an instrumentalist,
Hmm.
because the first thing people say is, "Oh, you sang," and then you have to say, "No, I
No.
played the flute." And then being a black woman playing the flute, and then being a dark-skinned black woman playing the flute. So all those things are things that make it harder and harder,
So,
for you to gain success. And so that's why I wrote the book, was to show that, becoming Chocolate Barbie, because it's a metamorphosis for all the things um, that a society does to women, not only in music but in all fields
right,
of what they do to women that doesn't happen to men.
right,
The questions like, do you have your flute? Can you play? Can you play as good as you look? Men don't have to go through that.
right. And did you get grief from fellow musicians, male musicians?
Yeah, not wanting to respect, when you have a band, they don't feel like they need to learn your music, or they want to tell you how you should, do your music. And so, yeah, and then when you're aggressive about, no, I want to do it this way,
Right.
now you get called the B word.
Yeah. Yes. How do you,
So, yeah, those are the things that I wanted to write in the book to let, mainly young women, but anybody that's experiencing that, of just some things that, of how you handle things. Don't be afraid to say no and turn down situations if the situation presented, it has nothing to do with the music, but more to do with what they may want from you as a woman.
how
So don't be afraid to say no.
how did you fight that? I mean, I can't imagine you're ecstatic about getting a gig. It's your show. You're going to be on it whether you are the headliner or the opening act, and then you get pushback. So you're out there, and assumption on my part, are you playing with an attitude? Is the attitude to I'm going to prove these people wrong? I'm going, or is it a sense of frustration? Why am I going this hard and I'm not going to get any respect?
Oh, for me, it was definitely the first that respect has to be earned, that you have to be better,
Hmm.
that you have to be more on top of your game. So that means being prepared, having your music prepared, you being prepared as an artist,
Hmm.
being on time, um, you know, presenting your best self and bringing your A game every time.
Hmm.
And only through that, being consistent, do you at some point gain respect.
Did
Not trying to be one of the fellas. I'm not one of the fellas. I don't want to
right?
be one of the fellas.
Did you? Did you there's something I got to say, but I'll save it for later. Did you sometimes walk off the stage? Gotcha. You know what I mean? It was like you've done your show. You hit it. It was right on point. The fans are just going crazy, and you want to turn and look at somebody and say, "You didn't believe me. Now you believe, don't
You have a lot of those, but overall, I think as you move through this field, you just you really only have to. You're the one that has to be satisfied. So it's
you?"
not
Hmm.
about. I don't really care what
Right.
whoever didn't believe in me. That's your thing. For
Right.
for me, it's just doing what I do at the highest level
Right.
possible every time.
Do
Yeah.
do you sometimes get that kind of pressure from females, your competitors, your fellow musicians?
Absolutely. Yeah. As knowing that like I'm a trailblazer, I know that everybody's watching me.
Hmm.
You know that they're waiting for you to fail. Some people,
Hmm.
everybody's not going to be happy for you. But I look at competition is good.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
always happy for the next person and their success. And if you don't like what's happening in your life, then you need to change some things with you. But it has nothing to do with the other person in terms of whatever they're doing or not doing. You can't let whatever someone else is doing, their success or whatever, affect you. You just stay focused and do what you need to do.
I know this is our first time talking. I really like your attitude. I just do. There is a positivity, but there's also an aggressiveness. There's a I'm not going to take this. I'm going to prove to you that I am better than you think I am, and believe it or not, you're going to turn to my side before I turn to your side.
Absolutely.
That's a PG comment there. It's not what was so glad my mom put this filter in my head when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Um, now you mentioned that you come from a musical family. Your dad was an original funk brother. Is that true?
He played trumpet, and I know the Funk Brothers legacy, they focus a
Yeah,
lot on the rhythm section.
right.
And and that's great. But when I came up, I knew all of the guys after Motown moved to California, the guys, the Funk Brothers in particular, who stayed, they were just the guys that my dad played with
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
played
right,
around town. And I didn't know that they were the Funk Brothers. I mean, I guess I knew that they were, at Motown, but me being the youngest, it wasn't like that, you know, was a big
hmm,
deal to me because I knew Joe Hunter and the rest of the guys as just the guys my dad played with, you know. So if the Funk Brothers, it took them that long as the rhythm section to gain a notoriety, you can imagine what the horn players got.
right.
Nothing. But what the horn players did get was they got royalties.
Yes.
And so not my dad left me the Motown royalties. And
Hmm.
that's the reason that I know how many songs he played on is because I get the statements.
Hmm.
So I actually can say my dad played on over 30, I lost count after like 34, 35 songs. But it was a daily thing. I mean, they just kind of went to work. They didn't know what the songs were going to be. They just
Right,
went in the studio every day and recorded horns for different songs. And then
right,
they would test them and they would wind up either, on the radio or not. But
right.
throughout the years, that's how many songs at least that my dad has performed on. So,
Wow. We're going to take a short break. We're going to listen to some music that you have played.
okay.
I always love this part. Let's listen to Inner City. There I go. I'm thinking Motown and Marvin Gaye.
Motown, right.
Let's listen to Inner Circle on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest, Althea Rene. You're watching the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. You know, we get a lot of lovely women on this show, and I don't know why we're hanging out with this thing here. But this is Althea Rene, great music, flute player. We've touched on some music, but there's some other things that you do. And one of these things is called Colors and Song. This is a nonprofit organization you have put together. Can you tell us about that?
Well, yes, it's a nonprofit where we have gone into the school system and just done like kind of master classes, but not about the flute, you
Hmm.
know, but more trying to prepare young people who may be interested in the music field on a
Right.
whole, but may not know all of the possibilities. And a lot of young people certainly don't understand publishing
Hmm.
and how that works. So, you think, oh, I wrote a song and a big name artist wants to sing my song or whatever. And I mean, this is the biggest opportunity. So,
Right.
or you'll sign anything or whatever.
Right.
And we're trying to educate young people on, your rights and not to sign your rights away and how to
Hmm.
copyright your material and just other avenues of what you can do with the music that people may not realize that it's not just being a performer. Everybody doesn't want to be in front of,
Right.
on stage,
Hmm.
but that there are a lot of other things that you can do. Writer, session player,
Right.
you can do movie backdrops,
Hmm.
things like that. There's just a ton of things that you can do that to think about that they may not know. So that's what Colors and Song is was formed to work with young people.
It is funny in doing this show. I've come across a couple of people. One guy just put out a solo album, has been a music producer, engineer
Yeah.
type for years. And then you go in and he sent me his catalog of songs that he's done. Well, first of all,
Mhm.
it's 4 pages, but it's Boney James. He's got a ton of stuff. And
Yeah.
then you think you go into the studio 3 or 4 hours to get one song. He's doing 3 or 4 songs a day,
Yeah.
four songs, 4 songs for every day. He's doing 28 songs in a week. It's I sat there and I'm reading this list and I'm like, this one. So then what happens is you go back and listen to those songs to see what he has done. I
Hmm.
am forever. There's a song with you and Jeanette Harris.
Oh yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I, I you go back and you try to pick out different spots and what this is you, this is her, so forth and so on.
Uh-huh.
I think it's never. I always tell people I am not. I was an athlete in high school, but I was
Hmm.
not the scorer. I could score if I needed to, but I'm the point guard. I like to distribute. I like to make other people look good because
Hmm.
if that person looks good, you're gonna get some credit. I get more credit for more people as opposed to this one guy, Charlie Sanders scores 54 points. He's
Yeah.
got 50 of those points off passes from me. But it's that kind of thing, and that's why I think it seems as though I won't say that you're a service person. You believe in giving as opposed to I don't need to stand out in front of the stage. I need to provide many people as I can opportunities on how to reach their peak. True statement?
Somewhat, although no, I'm a performer at heart. So, No, I definitely command the stage, and that takes years of doing it, and also just having the confidence in yourself. But on the other side of that, there are other layers,
Hmm.
and so that other side of me wants to not keep it all for myself because that's what I felt was done to me. I felt
Hmm.
like a lot of artists who could have been a help in my career at when I was young wouldn't
Hmm.
share any information. I don't know why. Maybe because they view it as a threat, competition, or because maybe you didn't act the way they wanted you to act, then you get punished, you know, for not for saying no and standing your ground and saying no, I'm not comfortable with that. And if you're not gonna book me because you like my music, then I'm gonna have to say no because I'm not doing anything else.
Hmm.
And so, in a sense, you know, as a young woman, I'll show her,
Hmm.
you know. So you had a lot of that, and that was probably the most hurtful thing early in my career that because I started doing the same what I wanted to do at when I was 18. I've been trying to do this for since I was 18. And there were times when it just seemed like it was a brick wall of, hey, I've actually been told by record producers, if you don't play the game, you're not going to make it.
Right. Well,
And I've had, yeah.
that's only been 5 years now, because you're only, what, 23, 24, right?
Been in the business a long time.
And you're doing so well. There's an unusual character, not a characteristic, part of your life that I want to talk about. Because Lord knows, if you pulled me over on a traffic stop, situation would be so much different. You were a deputy sheriff in
Yes,
Michigan.
for almost 12 years. Yeah.
What? You're at home. You come from a musical family. There's music all around you. But before I leave, I got to put my badge and gun on. Is that how it worked?
Well, have been doing the music and have been going out. You know, I was at that time, had gone out on a play and I was just in the pit band. And I was out for probably, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks and they didn't pay me. And this wasn't the first time that I had done stuff and didn't get paid, you know, or didn't get paid all you were supposed to get paid.
Hmm.
My mom, she just said, look, you're gonna have to get a real job.
Mothers will do that.
You got to get a real job. So, yeah, I was a single parent and I had two young boys and I needed stability.
Hmm.
So that's what drove me. It wasn't that I just in my life just always wanted to be a police officer.
Right.
So yeah, and I think when you apply, you pass the test, and then you choose which agency you want to be in, whether you want to be state police, Detroit police, or deputy sheriff. And at the time, I thought deputy sheriff was I don't know, the least dangerous of the
Oh, okay.
three, but it
All right.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't, no. So yeah, so you do this and but I never, of course I wasn't going to give up my music. So on the
Right.
weekends I would you know, sometimes straight from my shift as a police officer, I would change and I would have a club show. So I would start the morning as Officer McCullers and I would end as Althea Rene, jazz flutist,
I,
you
I
know.
I'm gonna say this. Now that I know this, if somebody rushes you on the stage, I'm going to let them. Okay, I'm just telling you,
Well, I
because
can
it'll be
handle
like, this is going to be more fun to watch. Because if I run
myself.
up there and get my butt kicked, I'm not this. But somebody else goes up there and she like wallops on him. I that's just too funny. Um, how long you been at this game? How long you been in music?
I mean, it's been a long time, over 20 years. Yeah. Yeah. Over 20 years. But there's a point when you're so young in jazz
Hmm.
that nobody takes you serious.
Right.
And there's this period of it, almost like the blues, like you're not old enough to to know anything about the blues. And it was kind of the same thing. I'm 18 and I'm trying to be a jazz star, and I can't get
Hmm.
anybody to believe in me, you know.
Do you think, as you say that, I'm thinking jazz has never been the most popular music, probably not in the top five, top eight.
Hmm.
So there's a small population of jazz artists. So people who want to get in, you're like infringing on that collective. And
Yeah,
they don't necessarily want to let you in.
exactly.
And it's not personal, but maybe we think we got enough here. And then for that period of time, there were so many different, I'll call them silos of jazz: acid jazz, soft jazz, smooth jazz, contemporary jazz, avant-garde, acoustic.
Mhm.
The list goes on and on. So now, even though you have this one heading, there's 142 titles, and you've got people just constantly trying to get in. And I'm guessing we're possessive. We don't
And
need
it's
anybody.
male dominated. That's
Right,
the biggest
exactly.
thing. It's male dominated. So they don't want a woman in that mix. You can sing, you know,
Right.
that they have no problem with that. But when I say they, I mean the gatekeepers
Hmm.
of who gets in and who doesn't. And so yeah, it was just one of those things that it was very frustrating. And yeah, but I don't know, it's something about me that you just can't get me, you can't hurt my feelings, you can't make me go away. I just stay. I've had situations where people have promise things and try to steal your music or your
Hmm.
sound,
Right.
whatever it is that they like about you. They would just feel like, I'll just take from you and you're never going to make it anyway, so I don't have to
Right.
worry. I can just take the best of who you are and apply it to my career
Right.
and my sound. And that happens all the time, and we all steal from everybody,
Right.
trust me. How do you learn your craft or figure out what to play? You listen to other people and you steal. That's just part of the business. But it feels horrible when you hear the thing about you
Right.
that makes you unique and you hear somebody else trying to do that
Right.
and you aren't getting the opportunity to present who you are.
See, now you're gonna make me not do my show the way I want to do it because what you're talking about generates more conversation. And I gotta get one more song in. So let's do this. Let's listen
Okay.
to Life on Mars with Althea Rene on the Jazz Flight Podcast. This is Darrell Scott. This is the Jazz Flight Podcast. She's Althea Rene. There's so much going on. There's so much she has done, and is going to continue to do. What's new for you right now? New music, new projects. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm working on new music for 2025, and yeah, I'm really excited. It's like, just in the last 4 years, the way we listen to music, and it's probably longer than that, maybe, but there's been a new um, way people get their music,
Hmm.
listen to
Yes.
music, appreciate it, and so I'm really have changed my whole strategy, and I'm loving it. I've got a lot of great things happening for 2025 though. But yeah, I mean, just the way I'm doing this project and the type of music and songs and everything I've been working on, and videos, photo shoots that I'm doing, and just the thought process behind how it's being done because um, and what I'm getting to is that you have to get your music to people in a few seconds now.
Yes.
You know, I'm
Yes.
saying you don't have you maybe under a minute.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
don't get them,
Right.
then you lose them
Right.
because our minds just don't sit down
Right.
and um, take the time to listen to a whole artist's long CD
Right.
or so everything you do, you have to gain the attention quickly.
Now, are you on a label or are you an independent?
I've been I've been independent for several years
Ah.
now.
So I won't mention his name. Um, it's been an independent man, at least 20 years, maybe 25.
Hmm.
Um, so you've had to, as I asked him, how do you now manage all of this? Because now you're in so much control. I don't know when you have time to make music because you got to write the song, and I bet in your case you play more than one instrument on a particular track. And that whole process to me is just mind-boggling because I've always been the person who goes, so tell me how you can play piano and blow your flute and do the bass on the same track. But
Well,
now,
I don't. Yeah, I
uh,
don't. And my process is very um, it's different because
mhm,
I'm a live performer.
right.
So my music for the most part is live.
Hmm.
I mean like live band
Hmm.
and it costs more.
Yeah.
I work with producers. I don't believe in just working with one producer
Hmm.
for a whole project because I want to be stimulated and I
Right.
want different types of inflections in whatever project that I do. So,
'Cause
I definitely like a live band because the CDs, whatever CD that is, that becomes my show. And
right.
I
Yeah.
might add some songs that were favorites,
Hmm.
but I'm never just doing, when you see me 10 years ago, I was doing a show from whatever CD I had out 10 years ago.
Right.
I'm not going to do the same show year after year after year. And yeah, because you got to stay a little bit uncomfortable. For
Right.
me,
Hmm.
I like to be a little bit uncomfortable. I like to kind of walk the edge with my shows. And I like to play music from where I'm living in the moment,
Hmm.
how I feel.
You know,
So,
it's funny
yeah.
you said it. I'm going to tell this story. And every now and then I stick my neck out. This is a conversation where I stick my neck out. So I'm doing this jazz show here in town. It's very popular. A couple of artists have become friends after doing interviews after interviews. So David Sanborn and I, the late David Sanborn and I, talk, I don't know, 5 years in a row. Hey, I'm coming to town. You coming to the show? This time I said no. No, I said, is the show the same? He goes, yes. No, I'm not coming. He's like, I can see him on the phone going, what did you just say? If the show's the same from last year, what's changed?
What's changed?
And,
Exactly.
he goes, okay, you got a point. How about, and then it's like, well, how about we just do lunch? Cool. I got no problem with that. I'd rather sit and talk to you sometimes than listen to him. But the next year I went to one of David's shows at a place that was the acoustics were tremendous. And I
Hmm.
needed a day to just listen to music. Bought my ticket, went to the very back of the facility, sat in the
Hmm.
last row, leaned up against the wall because that's what's behind me, and just listened to him.
Hmm.
Saw him at the end of the night, and he's like, I didn't see you out there. I go, because you couldn't, because I'm up in the back row listening to you. He goes, seriously? I go, yeah. I go, some days it's not just background music, it's like environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
It's just I need peace, I need quiet, I need a light groove. That's why I'm of this. Just give me something I can kind of groove with it. I can kind of go for. I had a. I'm not going to get into all of that. How can our fans follow you? We need to keep up with you. We need to know not necessarily where you are, but what you got going on, where you're traveling, whether you got new music out. We're gonna put it on all our social media, and I'm gonna push it.
Okay.
That sounds like payola though. Now it does.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Althea Rene music on Facebook and if you just put my name in Althea
Hmm.
Rene, which I think you can see in the
Yeah.
back,
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
then pretty much everything comes up, the website, whether I always post where I'm going to be on my social media. So if
Hmm.
you're on Instagram or Facebook, I also have a ton of videos on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, so if
Yes.
you just Google my name on that, then my channel comes up, and be sure to subscribe because that helps
That
out so
helps
much.
so much. Yes.
Yeah, and so
Um, give, I'm going to see if I can pull some strings. And I'm the host of the show. Um, you're at Blue Jazz on November 15th.
yes, yes, and I love coming. That's the closest I get, in Ohio, is Akron and Blue Jazz.
Okay.
But it's a really, really nice venue, and it's one of the few places that really is a jazz club that's
Right.
set
Yes.
up for jazz, and
Yes.
so I really love that. Yeah, and I've got two shows, and they're like most of the time when I'm performing at the big festivals and things like that,
Hmm.
you generally get 30, 40 minutes to play. I might play 4 or 5 songs, maybe, sometimes as few as 3 songs when I'm on shows with other artists.
Hmm.
But these shows at Blue Jazz, it's just me, and it's like 2 75-minute shows. So a lot of times people will say, "Oh, you didn't play this, and this was my favorite by you, and you didn't play that," and so it gives me a chance to play more songs that my fans want to hear.
Hmm.
But when you're only doing 3 songs, you got to
Right.
choose. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We're going to try and see you at Blue Jazz on November 15th. Althea Rene, this has been an absolute pleasure. It is, can't think of the word I'm looking for. You are inspirational. You are, you empower people by your conversation, by the things that you do, and things of that nature. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. As somebody once told me, you're not going to get rid of me. I will be around. I will post different things. I might send you a note here and there.
Okay.
I have an inside connection. So if I can't bug you, I'll bug somebody.
No problem.
Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.